Good afternoon and welcome to this Heart Standard live broadcast in the wake of Steven Naismith and his coaching staff being relieved of their duties at Tynecastle. My name is Craig Cairns, and joining me to discuss this somewhat inevitable news, I would say, is Heart Standard editor Joel Sked. How are you, Joel, and how's the throat?
Bad and bad. So yeah, if I was enjoying my morning, afternoon, just watching rubbish films on the couch, ordering takeaway. But I was going to say you got to give the fans what they want, but do the fans want us to be speaking about Steven Naismith? Maybe, but well, we're doing it anyway.
We're doing it anyway. Well, there was lots of people wanted this to happen, so they can't
Yeah.
complain that they're getting content now it has actually happened. But just before we get to discussing it all, just a wee bit of housekeeping before we proceed. Today's live broadcast is brought to you by Good Vibes Giveaways. Good Vibes Giveaways are proud to sponsor Heart Standard and offer fantastic prizes to fans of the club. Prizes change weekly and include tech and gadgets, days out, weekends away, tax-free cash, and even OASIS tickets. Get your tickets now at www. You don't even need to say that part of URLs anymore, do you?
No.
Goodvibesgiveaway.com and enter for your chance to spread the good vibes. Now,
Sunglasses emojis.
Sunglasses emojis. I wasn't sure exactly how to put that into words, but thank you. We are here to talk about the departure, the sacking of Steven Naismith, Frankie McAvoy, and Gordon Forrest from Hearts. First of all, Joel, just what's your initial thoughts on the news?
Yeah, it's a shame. I think I've said it a few times before. I really like Steven Naismith. I've liked all three of them at the time I've spoken to them and dealt with them. So it's a shame, but at the same time, it had to happen. I don't think it was. It could go on any longer. I know Hearts fans, there's probably many who want it done a lot sooner. I can understand that, especially before the international break. I was certainly of the mind where, well, I understood that. I wasn't against a wee bit more time, just looking at the potential fixture list the fixture list coming up and the potential that if we could get one good result and momentum. But yesterday, that was, I think, even for the most patient of Hearts fans, that was it. And we obviously won't dig in too much about the analysis of yesterday's game, but just kind of looking at it, I thought, as we talked about yesterday after the game, thought we played well in the first half. But looking at the stats, we'll bring XG in, but I think XG just helps paint a picture of the lack of chances created, or vice versa. But in Hearts' case, the lack of chances created, and
or the quality of them.
Yeah, the quality as well. Exactly. And so the last three games, like Celtic, Dundee United, and was it Motherwell before it? It was all roughly around 0.6 odds. Yesterday, it dropped to I should have got this up, 0.39, and I had a wee look. We did have a shot between the start of the second half and the 82nd minute, I think. What can you say about that when the team have been so poor? The team have not been great to watch, and they're needing to win, and they're on the run of really poor run of form, not having a shot against St Mirren for what was nearly 40 minutes when you're trailing 2-0 in a must-win game. There's not much else you can say other than that. Just not good enough at all. And I think that's the way you could sum up this start of the season. 9 games without a win, bottom of the table after 6 games in the league, the worst start in the club's history. 3 goals in 9 games, really, really bad. And when you look at it, and I actually think Steven Naismith, he'll be grateful, but I do think he got plenty of time. You go back to last season, and there was patience when we turned it around, but the same problems were evident the same problems occurred that were evident last season, but then in other areas it's regressed. We talked about it yesterday about the set pieces. Defensively, I know there's been a lot of individual errors, but yesterday, and even in the Falkirk game, but playing in the back four, really poor in the transition, defensively wise. And then there's only one word to describe the attack, and that's been embarrassing. Just with the lack of chances. And yeah, I think a few guys in the comments, like Kev Mack says, now time for the players to take some blame. There's that as well. Players, you can count on the one hand how many players have performed above their station or to their station, and you'd still be left with a few fingers.
Yeah, you kind of, just to kind of flesh out something you said there, you kind of mostly concentrated on the attack, which yes was kind of like a reoccurring theme, but the defense as well. I mean, call it individual errors, call it disorganization, call it whatever you will. There was too much of it, and we conceded far too many soft goals, and that put more pressure on us as an attack. And that's something that Steven Naismith kind of addressed after the game yesterday. He said that was where they went wrong in the second half. He would have liked them just play the same way as they had in the first half, create the same chances, and then maybe the goal would come. But we couldn't defend set pieces and found ourselves behind, and St Mirren were able to just close the game off and counter us as we committed more bodies forward. So yeah, even though you can point to the attack never improving, the defense was just never giving them a basis.
Yes.
We were always chasing games, I suppose is what I'm trying to say.
And what would I add to that further is that when players are making when the same mistakes are continuing to happen, then players again need to be better. But that goes back to the manager. The buck stops with him, and if it's the same mistakes that are being made or the constant errors, then there's an issue there. I think there's an issue there, and the fact that yesterday it was St Mirren who looked like they would score a third before we would score a second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So we've kind of discussed a few things there. The obvious reason why Naismith has been given the sack is because of the poor run, the poor start to the season. But what are the kind of other reasons, or more accurately, the reasons that have led to this poor run, the underlying reasons for this poor run?
So I suppose you go back to last season. I don't want to undermine last season's achievement. People were saying, Hibs were poor, Aberdeen were poor. But if you look at certainly at my time following Scottish football, very rarely are Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen competent at the same time.
Mm-hmm. But we're proving that now.
Yeah, exactly.
After being competent last season.
Yeah, at least one are always a disaster. So finishing third place, I think, was a successful season. We did defensively, organisation were really good. Away wins were really good. We're competitive, and we were a hard team to beat. But Steven Naismith, obviously, when he first came in, talked about front foot attacking football. We never saw that. We never saw that. We never saw a clear identity from Hearts. And my identity of Hearts is big physical Hearts. I don't think Naismith wanted to play that way, but then we didn't really see an attacking identity, and he admitted that himself in the press conference ahead of the game on Friday. So that was a big aspect for this season, was to be more of an attacking threat, to be probably less reliant on Lawrence Shankland. And I think when you look back to the summer's recruitment, my biggest issue with it was like on an individual basis, you can see why each player was signed. It's like, yeah, it's a good signing, but as a collective, I would argue there's too many players signed, and this is something we've discussed before. You've made the point, is that Hearts, rather than sign 4 or 5 players enhancing the team, it's signing 9 players who have enhanced the squad but not the starting 11, and then it's just, I feel it's just giving Steven Naismith too many options. We've seen him change starting 11 from week to week. Not really sure if he's best 11. To be fair, he said at the start of the season that he doesn't have a best 11. He believes in changing personnel. We've changed the system. I think the Fleetwood game really spooked them, that they wanted to go down to Fleetwood and play the way that he wanted to play. For anyone that wasn't at the Fleetwood game, Hearts were woeful, absolutely woeful. And I think that maybe just kind of put maybe a seed of doubt in the back of his mind. I wonder if it's something me and a couple of colleagues have talked about during pre-season. It's like, I'm not sure they've played enough games. certainly not like in front of crowds. And if you're wanting to, because he would go on to talk about Jan Dan down Blair's Spittle, so it's going to take time for the new players to kind of get up to speed and fit into being a Hearts player. But you have to remember, all these players were signed really early on, and then you need to give them get game time in what he sees as probably the best 11 or 14 or whatever. You need to give them game time together to gel. I don't think that really happened with the number of games that were played in pre-season. And then we just started well against Rangers, and then just slowly just got worse and worse as the season's gone on. It's not as if it's a poor start to the season. You can see it turn around. Like the lack of activity in front of goal has got worse. And then I just think loads of wee factors have just contributed to this terrible start to the season. You look at the recruitment, and again, good squad's probably a wee bit better, more options, but I don't think the squads, the starting 11's any better. We got one fewer attacking option. I know Tagawa kind of far to deceive most of the time, and he's the Hearts top, but he wasn't replaced. And then you look at the wide in the wide areas. I don't think we've improved. So yeah,
Finlay Pollock getting rave reviews. I know it's a level below, but he's getting rave reviews for his debut performance for Wraith. Aidan Denham was putting a cracking ball for was it the county equaliser, or was it no? I think it was one that made it 3-2. I'm not saying that these guys would necessarily come in and have an impact, but I think it goes back to your point about the squad being improved and not the starting 11, and it could have been that we could have concentrated our signings on improving the starting 11 and then giving some of these guys minutes to kind of to fill out the squad. Because that goes back to two things that Naismith said upon taking the job. You've kind of addressed the attacking football thing. That was one thing that he said. Went back to a more defensive approach last season when it didn't quite work out. This season, he's tried and he just can't get it to work. The other thing was young players. And okay, he may have signed some younger players in the recent window, but that was the other thing that he nailed his colours to the mast about, was giving young players a chance. That might have been on the cards in January, like he was kind of hinting at recently, but still, previous evidence didn't give any indication that he was going to do that.
Yeah, and I think younger players, this is where I asked him about it, and I probably disagreed on his view on it. He thought that, well, I could understand his view. He thought the team were too, like the atmosphere wasn't right to bring youngsters in. He made the point about Aidan Denham getting a lot of criticism on social media, and Macaulay Tate after his mistake or when he lost the ball in the semi-final against Rangers, getting a wee bit of stick. But in this environment, I think you get more patience. The younger players get more patience when the first team players are not doing it. There's a lot of first team players who have been given plenty of opportunity. Definitely. The obvious one is Yatara Oda and Finlay Pollock. I'm probably the only one that would much rather see Finlay Pollock being given that opportunity than Yatara Oda. We've seen what he's done, what he can do, but it's been far too inconsistent and not good enough too often. So yeah, that would have given. I think it would have been seen more positively in the eyes of fans if he did look to kind of blood youngsters. Another example, Stephen Kingsley at right back. Adam Forrester's been excellent for the B team this season. Spoke to Liam Fox about him on Friday for a piece this week, and he talked really he kind of raved about him and what he's done this season. So yeah, I think that's been a disappointment aspect of it, but not just like the last few weeks. The fact that the way the squad's been built, it's pushed the younger players down the down the pecking order rather than giving them more opportunity to play. So yeah, that's been a frustration. Like I said, attacking football. And then the third thing I would say was Naismith talked about not wanting to have, because he's experienced as a player at Tynecastle, not having to want a big churn each summer, but then signing 9 players kind of goes against that. So yeah, it's loads of things that have just built up, and you talk about momentum when winning, when you're doing poor and losing, that's also like the momentum, but just in the opposite way. And that's what Hearts have found.
Yes. So let's talk about how Naismith will be remembered then, because let's remember Naismith came in as a player to suppose varying success. Went through some ups and downs as a player at Hearts, and then cut his teeth as a coach and things like that. I suppose a bit of a roller coaster ride as a manager as well. The whole pro license thing and the is he not the manager, and then poor run, good run, poor run again. So yeah, how do you think he's going to be remembered by the Tynecastle fans overall?
I'm trying to think like how you'd rank it, but I think he will earn respect for what he did last season and get into third place, but it's I mean, football fans in general can be a bit savage. I don't think it'll be I don't think it'll be held up as a wonderful time during at Hearts. I think he did what I think a lot of fans see as what's the expectation of Hearts: finishing third and getting to the latter rounds of the cups. There were, and in fairness, there were some really like big moments as well. The Shanklin goal, the win at Easter Road, and the win at Celtic Park as well. The Rosenborg game, even though I know he was technical coach there, but other than that, there weren't any. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. There's not been like dominant individual performances where you come away from the game as like, oh, Hearts were absolutely magnificent there. The other team had no chance. That was few and far between. I think it took until March or April to score 3 goals in a league game. So yeah, I think he'll be respected for finishing third, but as in terms of a man, like the overall, it was, and I'm kind of then more pointing towards the football and the enjoyment, uninspiring is probably the way you'd probably put it. The football wasn't great to watch over the vast majority of his time. Hearts fans don't really want to see the team have 60% off the ball, and they did have that a lot, and were not really consistently competent enough to break down opposition defences.
And what do you think is going to be next for Naismith? I mean, just kind of like link those two questions. For me, I think it'll be seen, or how I will see him as in terms of his time as a manager, is maybe just like a bit too early in his career, because I do like him and I do like how he thinks about the game, and I do think he's like a promising young coach. I just, maybe, as kind of Scott McIntosh was alluding to in the last video that we did, that just maybe isn't the right match for Hearts right now, for a young coach to be cutting his teeth. So for me, I think I probably remember him as like a manager that's just probably going to go on to do good things in his career, but he's probably just got this job a little too early.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That was so when it came to the appointment last year, or when it came to after his interim spell, when there was that period between the season finishing and his appointment. The reason I was torn was, one, I thought Hearts needed to get an experienced manager, but also on the flip side, I was like, but what happens if Steven Naismith is a brilliant manager and we end up passing up on him and he goes elsewhere and does absolutely fantastic?
I think Aberdeen thought that about Barry Robson. It's amazing how many parallels there are.
Yeah, I know. So but I think that's what two of the things that come out of this is Hearts should not be anyone's first job. One of my mates put in the group chat, it's like, doesn't matter if it's Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo or anyone in the world, Hearts shouldn't be someone's first job in management. And I totally get that, unless you've got a really experienced manager alongside you. And I spoke to Jim Jeffries a few weeks ago for a big interview that's going to go out soon, and he kind of alluded to that, because he talked about having to. he kind of built up from Gallifrey, Dean and Berwick and Falkirk. Then he was ready for the Hearts job, and he said if you don't have that background, then you need someone as like a really experienced manager beside you. I know Frankie McAvoy managed Preston, but neither him or Gordon Forrest, they've got loads of coaching experience, but not loads of managerial experience to fall back on their CV. So there was kind of that lacking and within the management system. So yeah, I definitely think Naismith will have plenty of opportunities further down the line. People will look at what he did last season, and he'll probably be a better coach for his experience at Hearts.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a very, very tough job to have as your first job, and I think that's really showing. And like going forward, I think Hearts, whatever happens, they need to have someone someone needs to come in who at least has a couple of years within first team football management.
Yeah, and it's possible Naismith will go into some backroom team role for a wee while. Might even end up Scotland again until he decides what he's doing next, or at another club. That's not uncommon for young managers to go back into the backroom team somewhere before stepping out in a management role again. We've spoke about what's next for Naismith. What about what's next for Hearts? Now there's a couple of bookies lists out there. The people making the decision don't know who's going to be the next Hearts manager, so I don't think they have a clue who's going to be the next manager. It's just picking names out of a hat at the moment. So rather than give specific names, I mean, feel free to. I've seen a few in the chat. Derek McInnes has been mentioned. Davy Moyes has been mentioned. I don't know. I didn't see Craig Levine mentioned, but I saw somebody respond to what I thought must have been somebody suggesting Craig Levine.
I'll pop some in. So we've got Handsome, Flacco, Jody. Please no Robson, McInnes, and no going back. No, not interested in Stendhal or Sergio. We need someone outside of Scotland. Danielle says get Derek McInnes in. William Harden, left field shout here. Jim Curtin from Philadelphia Union and MLS is my outside of Scotland shout. Chrissy Jones, we at least have to ask a question to David Moyes, who could then bring in Steven Naismith as his assistant, owing to their past. I can see Levine coming in to steady the ship. Moyes would be a dream appointment, says Jim Ogg. Loads of big name managers available. I think the board should shoot for the stars when looking for a new gaffer. We'll come to that, so I think it's a really good point. G says, I'm sure Sports Lizard can analyse some managerial targets, fingers crossed.
What about the latest one?
Hold on now, say Scott Alexander's who will take temperature. I'd ask Eva Odd to do it for a week or two. They're going for the title, so don't want to derail them. And Jim Ogg says, apologies for my language here. Fuck it, let's get Tuchel.
That's
let's go for it. It's complete speculation as to who's going to take it. So like we've got on the site, we've got a bookies odds, like just a quick reaction, and there was a few names in there that I actually had to Google when one of our colleagues put up. Arnold Gunnlaugson,
see if they didn't even get it right.
Kiernan Lynch,
Kim something,
and Kim Helberg, who's a Swedish coach. So
these must be sort of ones that have been identified and are attracting interest from sort of like, no, like your Brightons and your Union Saint-Gilloise, those types of teams who are on the hunt for managers, or who it's known that they're looking at for their next appointment or something. It'll be like these kind of names that they're digging out from somewhere, I'd imagine, because I mean, I can't imagine they're just scouring like Scandinavia and saying, oh yeah, this guy fits the profile to be a Hearts manager. So yeah, I was saying we wouldn't discuss some names, but I suppose we could pick up on a couple of those there. Derek McInnes, I think he's the obvious one from Scotland. I putting aside what people are suggesting that we don't go for Scottish, we should be going for something else. Say what like Aberdeen have done or something like that. I'm not against that kind of idea, but just say if we're talking about within Scotland, Derek McInnes seems to be the one that stands out, the obvious kind of choice. But is McInnes even a goer given the structure at Hearts? Now, I don't know whether this is something that's just kind of said about McInnes or whether it is like true about him, but is he the type of manager that would work under a sporting director, or is he the type that a bit more old school and wants a bit more control over things?
So you look at his success, certainly Aberdeen and Kilmarnock. It was at Aberdeen until Dave Cormack came in. I think he had a lot of control over the footballing department, and maybe rightly so, because he did well. And it was so he had the head of recruitment called Russ Richardson. I think it's Russ Richardson. I think he's in at Kilmarnock. So they worked really well together. So that's where, like, remove the Tony Bloom Star Lizard. If it was just like, who do you go for next, I wouldn't be against Derek McInnes, just because I think he knows what it takes to be a success in Scottish football in terms of getting someone to third in the league and consistently do that. I think his track record in Scotland is excellent. But yeah, I find it difficult to think that he would fit into the way Hearts seem like they're going with the Sports Lizard side of things. So yeah, I would imagine we'll appoint someone we've never really heard of before or don't know too much about.
I think that's what's going to happen. We'll kind of come to that in a wee bit, but I think just to add to what you said about McInnes there, I think that other than that, he probably fits the profile perfectly in that he gets a bare minimum. He gets you to a bare minimum in the league, season in, season out, and he has a lot of experience with Scottish teams in Europe. So he really does fit that, what we need immediately right now, profile. But I agree with you. I don't think it's quite gonna be that. Sorry.
I just wanted to bring in a point that Grant Patience says. McInnes and Robinson perfectly capable, but when both manage teams who control the majority of possession, v teams that sit in, both fall short. Need someone who fits the situation with him. I think it's a good point in terms of you need someone with that to be able to do that. But I disagree with McInnes, because when he was with Aberdeen, they were a team that had a lot of possession, and I think he did really well when he had
through a few cycles with Aberdeen.
Cycles, yeah. They had like Ryan Christie, Ken McLean, Johnny Hayes.
That was and Hayes was playing central midfield sometimes and stuff. Yeah, that was a very possession-based team.
They were a very good team that could break you down in a number of ways. But what happened with McInnes is I just don't think he was able to recreate that towards the end of his spell.
He was getting bigger strikers and going more direct and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, in the first couple of years at Aberdeen, they were good.
That's a skill of a manager in and of itself, though, is to recycle and to have that sort of longevity. And he's proven that he can do that as well at two clubs, and he's on his way to proving it at a third club. Davy Moyes is another one that's been mentioned a few times in the chat. There is that you mentioned, you talked about shooting for the stars, or forgive me, maybe it was somebody in the comments. Is that even a realistic appointment? Can we go fishing in those kind of waters?
With Moyes, I probably wouldn't say so. I think that's probably a step too. I mean, he was managing West Ham for ages. So he took them at the Conference League success. I think, he won it. Yeah. So I think it'd be too much money. But I do agree with. I was Jim that said I do agree with the board should shoot for the stars when looking for a new manager. I think he can have investment in the team, but you need to invest in the management side. And we've one thing I would say about the board is all the managers that we've had have been backed. But one thing to say is all the managers have been backed, but we've not really went out and just like, right, this is a manager with a track record. Let's bring him in. Sorry, I got distracted by Cavan and Fords. I really can't take this seriously after McInnes comments. McInnes' track record in Scotland is good. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know what was said. That's controversial.
I don't understand the McInnes hate.
Yeah, I can understand people not wanting him, but I think his record speaks for himself. I mean, the one failure I can remember is Bristol. Was it Bristol Rovers?
Bristol City.
Bristol City, sorry, and before that, he did very, very well with St Johnstone as a young manager. So either side of that failing, really good at Aberdeen, really good at St Johnstone, and he's made Kilmarnock good. I mean, he started the season poorly. You can't argue with that, but I don't think that's going to continue all season under him. Anyway, let's kind of. Oh, sorry.
Yes, just to add that, I was like, but I do think that with that we should be looking. Again, going back to what Jim said, we should be shooting really high for a manager.
Just maybe not as high as Davy Moyes. That's probably not that realistic. Will Star Lizard be involved in this, do you think? Now, there's not anything official between the clubs yet. There has clearly been things going on behind the scenes, the review over the summer and things like that, identifying issues from last year with the team and how it played and how it performed. Do you think there'll be any kind of consultancy going on here with Star Lizard if there is something in the pipeline between the company and the club?
I certainly hope so.
And that's why it might be something that we've never heard of before, or is more likely to be something we've never heard of before.
That's why I don't. Maybe they were hoping to keep Naismith on until all that everything's finalised, and then they can go from there. But I think it'd be foolish not to. If these talks are progressing and as advanced as we think they are, which I think they are, then there's nothing to stop the club just going, what do you recommend, or who should go for it? It's essentially just hand the running of the football department over to Tony Bloom and Star Lizard and just get on with it.
It would be in their interests if something was imminent. It would be in their interests rather than the current structure at Hearts to make the decision, and then it be somebody that doesn't fit what they want to do.
Yeah,
and then you're
exactly.
in a position about whether you stick with it or whether you cut your losses so soon after sacking another manager.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something we talked about in videos regarding Tony Bloomer wrote about, is that you need joined up aligned thinking, and it's pointless jumping in and appointing a manager and then before Star Lizards come in and then they don't really fit in the structure or agree with the structure. So yeah, it's I think it's important that they're involved.
Is there anybody else out there you think is kind of worth giving a mention, or any other kind of type of manager or profile of manager you would like to see?
Profile of manager, I would like it to be someone described as a Marcelo Bielsa of disciple. That's all.
I would definitely take that. Take that. Well, sorry,
yeah, Marcelo. I'll just say Marcelo Bielsa disciple, or someone who's going to get Hearts back to being big, physical, and a nightmare to play against.
Get Stendhal back.
No.
He's about the closest we've got to trying a sort of Bielsa type in the past. It did not go well.
No, I'd agree with. I can't remember who said it. Don't go back. Let's go forward.
Yeah.
And I'm just. Jim just says, will Graham Jones have any input in the process? Again, doesn't really get his feet under the desk until November. So I would imagine, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine no. I would imagine that's a different people involved in that.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. We're about at time, and I don't want to punish Joel's voice anymore, make him have to talk anymore, because he clearly needs to get back to his bed. Thanks again to Good Vibes for sponsoring. Thanks for everybody for commenting. I mean, that's since I've started, it's more than I've seen people contribute. We just obviously we can't get through them all. It's difficult to kind of read as you go. But thanks to everybody for contributing, and we will see you all soon.
Yes, goodbye. Never miss the abusive ones. That's for sure.